Hello and welcome back to the ministry. I accidentally cut it off. I was trying to hit unpause and it took me completely out of the video. The Tiffany Montgomery word I was talking about was fast forward is allowed. In it, she talks about being loosed from the cult, and she does a breakdown on the fact she has another minister come in, and he does a breakdown on the fact of some people are being monitored, and because they're being monitored, they're being tied down, and nobody wants them to be untied. Because if they're untied and they come towards you, then that means the enemy's plots, plans, and schemes aren't going to work. So what the Lord is trying to do is he's trying to set these people free. First, the Lord had to go through the process of delivering your God-ordained spouse, and he went and put you through the level of deliverance first so that you could then therefore pray your spouse's deliverance. And this makes you, your God-ordained spouse's spiritual bodyguard, okay? Your God-ordained spouse is going to be your physical bodyguard, okay? So when she goes through the process of her dressing room blowing up, Cy, her manager, this is her father figure. Notice a lot of these films, TV shows, all of these, there's always a figure that is of high authority that represents the father, okay? Cy, I think his name is Cy Miller. He is her manager. He's the one that calls in, what's the name? Frank, to come in to become the bodyguard. Frank's previous job was to protect Reagan during the Reagan administration, but he wasn't there. So he held himself accountable for a long time and would not protect anybody because he missed an opportunity to save this man's life. So he's dealing with that when he gets the call from his buddy that is saying this woman needs protection. And he's like, a celebrity? Are you serious? And he's like, it's good money. I think you should take it. That'll get you out of your rut. Okay? So, what ends up happening is he decides to take the job. So for you, I need you to think about, as a kingdom wife, when God solicited or recruited you to be the one to stand in the gap for your God-ordained spouse. I remember the day that the Lord called me to stand in the gap for my God-ordained spouse. He gave me a dream of the individual, and he said, now I'm going to need you to pray. That was probably 9 years ago, somewhere around there. He started the process with me, and I did start praying for the individual, but you see, when you start praying for somebody, that brings warfare against you, and it potentially brings warfare against them. But the catch-22 to that is when you stop praying for the individual, it offers the opportunity for the enemy to slip in unbeknownst. But at that time, I wasn't spiritually as aware as I am now to be spiritual protection. I did the word for the movie, what do you call it? Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1 and 2. When I did that, I talked a little bit about how you're the bodyguard for your husband. You have the ability to be his shield spiritually. Anybody looking for my other movie reviews, Rhema movie reviews, TV show reviews, go to the Rhema movie and TV playlist. It's an entire playlist. If you let the Lord lead you before to watch these videos, let the Lord lead you now as to which ones of those you're supposed to watch, okay? Just a little side note, so you don't always have to be wondering or following just only these. There are other ones. I've done tons of other films aside from the ones that you are presently seeing as you find these. So, with that being said, your God-ordained spouse is supposed to be a protector to you physically. So because they feel like they need to protect you physically, it's not so much that they are a protection, it's that they need to simply obey God as the instruction. He's going to provide the level of protection necessary. They just need to obey His leading. Just as we had to learn to obey His leading to avoid trouble, when your goddamn spouse is quick to listen and hear what God has to say, He will be able to protect you, okay? But first, he had to become aware to what was going on around him, which a lot of your God-ordained spouses were oblivious to the threats that were surrounding them. This woman, Rachel Marin, played by Whitney Houston, she didn't understand the threats because everybody was trying to keep her from having wisdom or knowledge as to what threats were around her. No, we can't tell her. We don't want to upset her. We don't want to da-da-da-da. So when they brought in the new bodyguard, and for some of you, that's what happened with you. You spiritually were their bodyguard, and God was telling them, I've just hired you a new bodyguard because you ain't got no protection. And it's like, I got a bunch of physical protection. What you talking about? Because some of you are called to somebody that has high physical protection. So they're like, what you mean? And the Lord gave me wisdom a while back. Not too long ago. It was, think of a person that lives in Candyland. I'm hearing the jingle, and God keeps ringing it back every time I think about this. Hearts, stars, and horseshoes, clovers, and blue moons, and all that kind of stuff from the cereal commercial. And that's what their life felt like to them. Hearts, stars, and horseshoes, clovers, blue moons, all these kinds of things. Everything is the way that they need to, but then all of a sudden, God starts yanking their chain and said, your life is about to turn into a disaster. And they're like, I got hearts, stars, and horseshoes, clovers, and balloons over here. What are you talking about? My life is about to turn into a, everything's about to fall apart. And I'm going to be in a dry wasteland full of burning chaos. What are you talking about? You are lying, right? They're like, I'm over here with these hearts, stars, and horseshoes. I do not need to listen to anything that you have to say. So when the Lord brings you in, you kind of like, yeah, that's about to fall apart because that's not coming from the right place. And that can't continue to stand in order for you to get the actual blessing. Because you're over here listening to hearts, stars, horseshoes, clovers, and balloons, and God's trying to give you ivory and gold and rubles and jewelry, and you sitting up there talking about hearts, stars, and horseshoes, clovers, and balloons. It looks nice. Candyland looks pretty. I'm trying to give you real sustenance over here, okay? But you don't want to listen to the fact that I got to take you through that in order for you to get the other thing, okay? So when Rachel finally meets him, she was prepping for the shoot, I believe, for her next music video, and she was yelling at somebody in relation to something that needed to come together. And Frank hears her, and he's like, oh, Lord, what in the world am I getting myself into in watching after this individual? For some of you, when God pulled you into praying for your God-ordained spouse, you was like, what the heck is God talking about that this is the man that I'm supposed to be praying for? You telling me I'm supposed to protect him? And when God started yanking on their chain, he was like, you want me to marry her? And some of them, remember I just said Candyland, they were living in Candyland, so they might have even had the counterfeit that looked like the best Brazilian model type chick laying in their bed when God did it. It's like, what you mean? You want me to leave this for that? Are you kidding? You are kidding, right? And we were sitting up there like, I know you saying that that's the dude, but I know how people are in that industry, in that place, in that space that you're saying, and they vain and full of pride. What you mean? Oh heck no. And then the enemy makes sure to put a photograph or something in front of you to make you feel like, oh hell no. No. And God said, I didn't ask your opinion. I asked you to start praying and protecting this individual. Really? They actually seem a little bit vain. Oh, you needed the scripture for that. Let me go get Romans 8 and 20. For the creature was made subject to vanity. Mankind in general, the whole visible creation lost the original beauty, glory, and felicity. A sad change passed on man, in his place of Abdon. The whole face of nature was obscured, and all creatures were subject to vanity and wretchedness in the vanity of all forms. So you let your God-ordained spouse go into that place of vanity. And it's like, yes, I let that happen. So now I need you to pray and pull him out of it. And he was like, I'm be obedient, but I don't. Who's this individual? You talking about that person? Are you sure? But then God started showing you their character. I also have this version that says the creature itself was liberated. Your God-ordained spouse was liberated from bondage to decay and brought into freedom of the glory of the children of God. He had to be liberated from his bondage, which meant everything from his previous phase of life must have decayed in order for him to be brought to the freedom of the glory of God. And you had to pray them into it. So you are actually becoming the bodyguard to that degree. Now, on the flip side of that, they were assigned to you that they were going to have the coming assignment to protect you. And they looking at you like, her, hi, what? Why, what? What you mean? And the Lord had to show them that what you got sitting next to you ain't gonna protect you. I loved when both of Christ. She did a word a while back. It's the one with the horse on it. The man sitting on the black horse. In it, she was talking about a story of a man where he had prayed in relation to his God-ordained wife. And what ended up happening was the Lord showed him that, yeah, you can take that choice if you desire to take that choice. You have free will to choose that individual if you want. But if you choose that individual, understand this is going to be the outcome of your life and this is going to be the outcome of their life. You will not have a happy ending. But if you want to freely choose to go in that direction, go right ahead. God will never force you into a decision, but He will give you the option of understanding if you make that choice, it's not going to turn out well for you. Okay? So, in that, he meets with her. And she's trying to figure out, like, why you hired this man on here. Some of you were like, this the person? This the person? Especially for some of y'all that met your individual before, meaning you're going back to a relationship. You know the character of that individual. So you like, that's not how I remember. This isn't going to be good. So, so you're like, I don't know about that. That not going to be good for me. So I'm not really feeling that. And God was like, yeah, not really concerned about what you feel good about. Because you remember how when God put you in isolation and He was kind of like, I'm trying to protect you, and you was like, I want to be out. Why can't I go where other people go? Why can't I go? This is what the bodyguard was telling her. You can't be out here. You can't be presenting your. She's like, oh, you just stuck up in this, that kind of, So she's like, I'm going to go do, and she thinks she going to do what she want to do. Some of you God-ordained spouses, when the Lord started telling them, that's your wife, that's the one that's going to protect you. One, the Lord started making them slowly begin to see the people that they had around them, meaning the people that they were sleeping with, the people they were dealing with, the people, He started making them slowly see it, but it was such a minute to them. It's like, well, this person act like this anyway, so whatever. And they were literally cutting off their nose to spite their face, because they was like, I'm not going, because they were just pretty much rebelling against the fact. Just like this young woman, Rachel, was rebelling against walking into a relationship with the protection that she needed at the time. Okay? For you, you are to your God-ordained spouse, you have the vision. You can see ahead of time. You have the motor skills. You have the ability and the skill to see ahead of them, which they need in order to protect them. But they was not impressed by the package it came in initially. Initially, no. It was like, I'm not feeling that. So they checked you out. And she, on the other hand, she was like, she felt that he was a little bit too, what's the word that they used? They said that she was more of a spoiled diva, and she accuses him of being paranoid. Some of them felt it's like either they were paranoid for believing that you were their spouse, or on the contrary, that you are paranoid for the way in which you believe the way God is showing you how to operate. You understand what I'm saying? So, he has to come in and change everything. This is an issue, and I'm going to take this moment to do a segue talking about the political arena. When people are in high-powered position, politics, so on and so forth, the people that are in control of high-powered places and positions, they don't want new people coming in and changing, uprooting, and pulling out from under all of the dirt that was down in there that they are used to. They're going to have a fit because of the fact that you're actually cleaning out the issues. Coming back to the film, some of your God-ordained spouses, they were highly pissed off when you started praying for them, because why? You started to unveil all the dirt, all the stuff, because you started cleaning things out. You started to spiritually pull stuff up. You started to pull things out. You started to do all of this kind of stuff, and you were doing it spiritually. You started to have things started turning on them. People started turning on them. Situations started turning on them. But what did the scripture say? What we just say? That the creature itself was liberated from the bondage. But to them, the liberation looked very uncomfortable. It's like, excuse me, this doesn't look like it's protecting me. What are you talking about? So what ended up happening is Rachel's character, she ended up having a concert. And when she went to her concert, somebody attempted to attack her, and she started having anxiety. Some of you God-ordained spouses have dealt with anxiety. Let's just make it clear right there. Some of them deal with high levels of anxiety. And because they deal with such high levels of anxiety, one, for where they are, two, having to be aware and pay attention to certain things, they are very untrustworthy of new people. But it's something that you've done. I'm being reminded of the scripture where Abigail stands for Nabal. And when Abigail stands for her husband, David was impressed by that when she came and brought the sacrifice in her husband's stead in order to plead for him not to be killed by David. Didn't help, because God still wanted to take him out. Yes? But he was impressed by that. Your God-ordained spouse is impressed at the sacrifices in which you've made to stand in the position that you've had in order to protect, stand, seek the Lord on their behalf. And when all things had been demolished, things were pulled up. Things started to actually work to their benefit. They started to see little benefits in you praying for them. But first, they had to pull up all of the nasty stuff. And in some of that, they kind of missed the benefit of your prayers, because it was small benefits, large demolition. So they were paying attention to that, and they're like, you're messing things up. So, she ended up having her music video shoot, but you are introduced to a couple of other characters. For instance, Tony, her previous bodyguard that was there. Her sister, I forget what her sister's name was. Let me go back and look at this note. Her sister, did they say what her sister's name was? Because all I know, Okay, Nikki. Nikki is her sister's name. So Nikki, she also works on the team, okay? And he's asking questions. Know this, when you come into this situation, the way that you have them inquire and or you inquire about things is automatically going to make people look at you side-eyed, because they don't want, nobody likes to answer questions anyway, because it shows their heart posture, and their spiritual space. So in you coming in and asking questions, Frank was asking questions because he had to ask questions. If he's going to bodyguard her and protect her from certain things, he needs to know, is there an internal mole here? So he needs to be cautious. There was a previous, the previous bodyguard, Tony, he and Tony get into it. For some of you, when your God-ordained spouse comes into the picture, there are going to be people in your life that are going to challenge your God-ordained spouse. It is what it is. It may be the men that are in your life, whether it be your father, whether it be your brother, your best friend, what have you. And they have to be spiritually aware of the fact that these men are there and they may not have their best interest at heart, because they are all carrying other spirits. So they have to be alert and aware to that. You, on the opposite case, you coming in as their protection, need to be aware that there are people that are siblings, sisters, mothers, aunties, female partners, and I'm not talking about the counterfeit, I'm talking about business associates, that may be looking at you side-eyed, like, well, who the heck are you? How you coming here like this? Know it. Understand it. That there may be some people in his association that may be like, what you doing? Where'd you come from? What's up? Okay? And with that knowledge and that understanding, that they're going to be looking at you side-eyed. Understand that some of them are carrying monitoring spirits. Especially once the Lord releases you and your spouse to be around other folks. They're going to be side-eyeing on you, where she come from, how she get here so fast, and what in the world is she doing here? Vice versa for your family and your associations. Who he, why are you with her, and what is this? Especially, you know that you got negative mouthpiece in your family. They already, as soon as they know, they going to start saying, I don't see that lasting for long. Because it's just how they are. But we curse that at the root. You better start praying and cursing that stuff now. Okay? But know that it's a potential that it will be coming. They may say to your face, oh, look at you, you're so cute. But behind closed doors, I don't see that lasting for long. Understand it. And start praying now. Because there are people. I literally, over the weekend, was seeing The Devil You Know. I never watched the show, but I saw the title come up on television. Which brings me to the understanding. Prophetic Poetry did a word that talked about the devil you know. There are people in your God-ordained spouse's circle that may be sent there and planted by the devil. Smile in your face and got flattery up the wazoo. Ain't got a sense of God or look of God in them. There are people around you. You know they ain't got God in them. They know how to smile. They got charisma. Whatever. No God in them. Because you know these folks. You know. So, understand that without spiritual discernment, your God-ordained spouse is going to have the ear to be able to determine and cover. I did a prayer in a previous video that I talked about the fact that you got to pray against monitoring spirits. And yes, I am going to add that prayer to the community post because it's one that I use pretty frequently whenever I see that there's a potential for confusion